to the Give and Go. My name's Tim, and thank you for coming back for episode 2 of our 32 for 32 series as we look at all the different teams in the NFL, their offseason priorities, and what they have to do this offseason. Today, we are looking at the New York Giants. New York Giants that went 3-13 this past season, and even though they were my Super Bowl pick to get to the Super Bowl from the NFC, they highly disappointed throughout the entire season. Let's go ahead and look at the New York Giants. But first, I have to talk about one of the biggest news stories that broke yesterday with Josh McDaniels deciding not to coach the Indianapolis Colts and decide to stay in New England as the offensive coordinator, the heir apparent to Bill Belichick. So I do believe that I will be pushing that episode back until they find a head coach and we see his philosophy. So tomorrow we will be looking at the Houston Texans instead. Now to the New York Giants. So this year, they were horrible. You have to say that. I gave them an F for the 2017 NFL season. They had high expectations for the season. As I said, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl after in 2016 they made the playoffs and made a big splash overall. And whose fault is it? There are many players' fault. First off, it's Ben McAdoo, the head coach who was fired in November. He destroyed and lost trust throughout the locker room. It was an Eli Manning versus Geno Smith fiasco. They should have played Davis Webb if they were going to play someone, and they decided to play Geno Smith. Eli Manning, he broke his consecutive start streak, and it was all for nothing. In my opinion, that was one of the worst moves Ben McAdoo could have made. The Eli Apple versus everyone scandal, he basically started punching teammates, and Ben McAdoo couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle the locker room whatsoever, especially the big personalities. Odell Beckham. You got Brandon Marshall on that team. You got Eli Apple, Janoris Jenkins. They had many big personalities, and he couldn't handle them all. And veteran players couldn't step up. Brandon Marshall, as I said, he was one of the worst when he was playing. He was not playing whatsoever well. And Dwayne Harris, who didn't even play, probably played better than him, even if he wouldn't have played. So that tells you. You look at that defense. The defense stayed pretty good, but there were some players on that defense that didn't step up throughout the year. There was no offensive line whatsoever on that team. Eric Flowers is a bust right now. Right now, he is a bust in the NFL. He was a number 2 overall pick 5 years back out of Miami, and he has not performed up to expectations. They need a new left tackle this season right now. And honestly, they were just a little bit unlucky as well. They were a team riddled with injuries. They had Odell Beckham go on IR with his broken fibula. He had Brandon Marshall, Sterling Shepard, Jonathan Casillas, DJ Fluker, Justin Pugh, Weston Richburg, and Keenan Robinson all missed time for the New York Giants this past season. But there were some bright spots for the 2017 NFL season. Orleans Darkwa played well down the stretch, and he's a free agent this year. He made some big moves. Maybe he can find himself a team. They realized early that they have to find Eli Manning's replacement. And it's no question they either have to find him in the first round this year and just let him go, or develop someone behind him. If Davis Webb's not working out, they want to go to. There are a couple options in free agency and in the second or third rounds of the draft. One thing that I think the biggest player that performed exceedingly well throughout the 2017 NFL season was Evan Ingram. He is an elite tight end in the making, like a Travis Kelce, like a Jordan Reed, like a Gronk, like an Olsen, like a Jimmy Graham. He's really good, and he is solidifying himself in the top echelon of tight ends in the NFL. The core defense from a year ago is still intact, so that is also a bright spot. So they do not have to go spend as much money on that defense, but they do have to perform better. Now, to 2018, they have many changes so far to the 2018 season. They fired their GM, they fired Ben McAdoo, and they have a whole new front office. David Gettleman, who used to be with the New York Giants, was with Carolina last year, and he was fired. He's a great GM, he's a great talent evaluator, but he does not mess with people. He's a no BS GM. Look at Josh Norman, look at Steve Smith, D'Angelo Williams, Craig Olsen this past season, as well as Thomas Davis. All those players had trouble with him. And honestly, he needs to develop relationships with these players and not try to cast them out as not trying to be team friendly with those contract deals. And he needs to get rid of the locker room cancers in that locker room, or try to make sure that they have some accountability. The one thing I am worried about is this contract negotiation that's going to come up that we'll talk about a little bit later. So the coaching staff. They brought in Pat Shurmur, the former Cleveland Browns head coach, who really didn't get his fair shake in Cleveland. He did an awesome job in Minnesota this season with a backup quarterback supposedly in Case Keenum and turned into an elite quarterback this year. And in the playoffs, they beat New Orleans on that big throw. Stephon Diggs, you know what I'm talking about. And it's looking like he will call the plays. We don't know the offensive coordinator as of now, but the defensive coordinator is James Betcher. He was previously the defensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. And he did a great job with the secondary and learning to deal with the loss of talent. Look, they lost Calais Campbell, and they lost a bunch of different pieces on that Arizona team, and he did really well with that team last year. So, to the needs and priorities for them. They need a quarterback. It's no question about it. Eli Manning, he's getting old. He was drafted in 2004, and that is almost 14 years in the NFL? He might have a couple years left in him, but is he really an elite quarterback? Maybe go get Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen would be great for that market in New York. It would fit right in. If you wanna go after someone in free agency, maybe Kirk Cousins, but that would mean that you would have to get rid of Eli and not develop that quarterback. Maybe a Mason Rudolph in the second round might work, just to think about it. Again, for running backs, if you watched the video yesterday, go ahead. It is in the description for the Cleveland Browns. I talked about running backs, Saquon Barkley. If you're not taking quarterback number 2 overall, go grab Saquon Barkley. That is my personal opinion. He is the best running back out of this class in the past 5 years. Definitely better than Leonard Fournette, McCaffrey, Kareem Hunt, Alvin Kamara. He is an elite running back in the making. They should go after him if they're not grabbing a quarterback in that first round. And again, they need an offensive tackle to go protect whoever the quarterback will be. So, the one contract negotiation that I'm going to talk about right quick is a Beckham negotiation. You know, Odell Beckham, he is by far one of the top 3 wide receivers in the NFL right now. Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, and Odell Beckham. He's young, and he needs to get paid. Dave Gettleman, he might not be willing to pay him, and if I'm a New York Giants fan, what I would want to do is either to pay him the big bucks or just trade him. Or because you do not want to deal with the contract negotiation with a diva over the next 2 to 3 years and try to deal with this Kirk Cousins thing with the wide receiver. It's not going to happen. You either decide now to keep him and pay him the big bucks over a $100 million contract, or decide to let him go. It's your choice. So, they also have some offseason weapons that they get to use. They have $21 million in cap room. Not that much. If they free up some cap room by cutting some of those older veteran players that don't belong, maybe. And they only have 3 picks in the top 100. They have the 2nd overall pick, the 34th pick, and the 66th pick. So, thanks for tuning in today to 32 for 32 on the Give and Go. Tomorrow we will be back looking at the Houston Texans and what they did this previous season. The Colts 2018 will be on hold until further notice, until this Josh McDaniels situation settles down. So thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow on 32 for 32.